An 18-year-old goes to a 4th of July celebration with his closest friends. He climbs onto a boat, he smiles for the camera, and then he never comes home. His friends returned to the dock that afternoon, every single one of them, except Nolan. They said he chose to stay behind, but the girl he was allegedly talking to says he went back to the boat. Someone is lying, and the mother is left clutching a phone full of deleted messages, asking a question that no one will answer honestly. What happened to Nolan Wells on Horn Island? If you're hearing about this case for the first time, subscribe to Darkness Beneath Crimes right now and hit the like button, because what you're about to hear will sit with you for days. On 4th of July 2026, Nolan Wells set out to celebrate Independence Day on a popular barrier island of Mississippi's Gulf Coast. In photos from the boat that day, the 18-year-old towers above his friends, his arm casually slung around their shoulders as he smiles for the camera. But he also stands out from another reason. Wells appears to be the only black person among the group. Nolan Wells was a wide receiver of Southwest Mississippi Community College. He stood 6'1", weighing 185 pounds. A freshman from Ocean Springs, Mississippi, majoring in general business. He was a 2025 graduate and a multi-sport athlete at Ocean Springs High School. On National Signing Day in 2025, Nolan spoke to the local media and called it a blessing to continue his football career at Southwest Mississippi Community College and to share the moment with his teammates. His coaches loved him, his community celebrated him, he carried himself with humility. Treated others with respect, worked hard and led by example. His character spoke louder than his accomplishments. That is who Nolan Wells was, a young man with everything ahead of him, and that is exactly what makes what happened next so unbearable. On the evening of July 3rd, Nolan had dinner with his family and left to spend the night with friends ahead of the holiday. He was supposed to return to school that Monday to start training for the upcoming football season. His father, Elmore Wansley, said this wasn't some reckless trip. This was a teenager doing what teenagers do on a long weekend, going to the beach with friends. Nolan joined his friends from high school for a boat trip to Horn Island, a federally protected barrier island known for its pristine sands and wildlife. Among 10 miles off the Mississippi coast, it's a popular local destination for beachgoers, and it wasn't uncommon for Nolan to visit the island with friends, his family said. But there is something critical about the island that you need to understand. According to the National Park Service, there is no staff, no drinking water, no shelter, no facilities, and no communication on the island. 10 miles from the coast. No cell signal, no emergency services, no way to call for help. Remember that detail, it becomes important later. Nolan was last seen boating with friends around 3 p.m. on Saturday, July 4th, on Horn Island. He was wearing blue swim trunks and sunglasses. He's laughing in photos from that afternoon, standing taller than everyone around him, not a care in the world, and then the story splits in two. Here is where the contradictions begin, and they don't stop. Friends reportedly told investigators that Nolan chose to remain on Horn Island after speaking with a young woman and intended to catch another ride back. According to them, he stayed behind voluntarily. They said he would find his own way home. However, according to attorney Ben Crump, the young woman later said that Nolan returned to the boat, contradicting the friend's account. Let that sit for a moment. Two completely different versions of the same event. The friends say Nolan stayed for the girl. The girl says Nolan left to get the boat. That inconsistently has become one of the central questions surrounding the investigation. Someone is not telling the truth, and an 18-year-old is dead. According to a Facebook post by the mother of one of the boys who was with Nolan, her son saw Nolan last around 3 p.m. on July 4th. They left around 4:30 p.m. when the boat was taking on water and they had an issue with the bilge pump. She claimed Nolan made a decision to stay on the island and return to the island later with another group of friends. But here's the thing that makes no sense. Nolan's cell phone was not recovered with his body. The phone was allegedly found in the possession of one of the friends who had joined him on the island. An 18-year-old in 2026, what teenager voluntarily stays on a remote island with no communication and no cell phone? What teenager separates from the group without his phone? What teenager hands over his lifeline to someone else and says, "Go ahead, I'll figure it out"? That question isn't rhetorical, it's the question that cracked this whole case wide open. Xavier Williams, one of Nolan's friends who had seen him on the island on the 4th, said that account doesn't square with the person he knew. He told CNN he'd never known Nolan to stay back while his friends leave. He's always been a guy where if he rode with you, he's going to come back with you. That's always how he's been every single time. His father echoed that same sentiment. "We always taught him, if you go with a group, you stay with a group," Elmore Wansley said. So the friends say he stayed. A friend who knew him says he would never do that. His own father says he was raised not to do that. And the girl at the centre of the story says he went back on the boat. And yet Nolan didn't come home. Nolan's family reported him missing the night of the 4th of July after they received a phone call around 11 p.m. from one of his friends. That is approximately 8 hours after he was last seen. 8 hours. Think about that. 8 hours passed before anyone reached out. In the early hours of July 5th, his mother, Christine Wansley, began posting desperate appeals for any information about her son's location on social media. A mother, awake in the middle of the night, sharing her son's face with anyone who would look, begging strangers to help find her son. The day the Jackson County Sheriff Department publicly announced they were coordinating with the United States Coast Guard and Mississippi's Department of Marine Resources to search the island, Nolan's father, Elmore Wansley, went out on a boat with Nolan's football coach that morning and found nothing. The search for Nolan Wells lasted more than 40 hours. And then, on the morning of July 6, it ended. His body was found by a National Park Service agent, face down in the water off the shoreline. The 18-year-old's body was found in the water just off the shore of the northwestern end of Horn Island, the same end of the island where he was last seen alive, the same stretch of beach where more than 200 people had gathered just 2 days earlier. Boats everywhere, people everywhere, and somehow nobody saw anything. Nobody saw him struggle. Nobody saw him go under. Nobody tried to help. The swimsuit he was wearing matched those that were in the photograph that he was last seen wearing. The coroner confirmed. Coroner Bruce Lind confirmed the body was identified as Nolan Wells through dental records. Now think about that for a second. They needed dental records to confirm his identity. After only 2 days in the water, the detail alone should tell you something about the condition his body was in. At the news conference, Nolan's family and attorney Ben Crump questioned why his body didn't float to the surface on July 5th when the search was happening. He went missing on July 4th, and they said his body should have been there on July 5th. So the father goes searching on July 5th, finds nothing, and then the next morning a park ranger finds Nolan's body in the shallow water near the shore. Where was he for those 24 hours? That question has no official answer. If you are following this case, make sure you are subscribed to Darkness of Beneath Crimes, because we are not done. Not even close. Investigators told ABC News they suspected that Nolan drowned, but the family's attorney, Ben Crump, cast doubt on the notion, saying the teen was a strong athlete and knew how to swim. The Barrier Islands, off the Mississippi coast, do have a history of powerful currents and drowning deaths. The currents are strong out there, especially on the end of the island. The coroner said there have been drownings out there in Barrier Island many times over the years. A volunteer with the United Cajun Navy who helped with the search described the treacherous conditions, saying there are parts of the northwest tip of Horn Island where you could be in 3 feet of water and then 20 feet of water within a few steps. So the water was dangerous, that is documented, but the family couldn't accept the drowning narrative. Not with what they found on his phone. Christine Wansley told Good Morning America that his family tracked his phone, but when she went to pick it up from Nolan's friends, she said it appears that some texts and Snapchat messages had been deleted. In her own words, when we finally got his phone, me and my sister went through the phone. We went in the Snapchat. He had 2 accounts. Absolutely nothing, she noted. It wasn't even 24 hours, which is how long videos and pictures stay in Snapchat, and said his sister agreed that it was suspicious. Let that register. Nolan's Snapchat wiped clean. No saved pictures, no snaps from July 4th, and they checked within the 24-hour window before Snapchat messages automatically disappear. There should have been something there, but there was nothing. His mother knew her son. She knew that at any social gathering, Nolan was the one documenting everything, taking pictures, recording videos. That was just who he was. And on the biggest holiday of the summer, surrounded by friends on a beach, there wasn't a single snap. Someone deleted those messages. The question is, who? And the bigger question is, why? Investigators specifically asked for the original unedited photos and videos taken on July 4th, particularly those depicting alleged altercations or containing images of or believed to include Nolan Wells. Authorities confirmed they are investigating online reports of an alleged altercation on the island on July 4th and whether it involved Wells. In one video recorded near the island that day and widely circulated on social media after his death, someone can be heard yelling as if it's a heated argument. A video of a confrontation on the same island on the same day, someone screaming. On Good Morning America, Tracy Shepherd, a friend of Nolan's, addressed the viral video that investigators have been studying. Many worried the video showed Nolan in a confrontation, but Shepherd said that was not the case. That's the video I am referring to, and that's me yelling, Shepherd told Good Morning America. So one of Nolan's friends claims the voice on the video is his, not Nolan's, but that raises another question. What was the argument about? Who was it with? And why was there a heated confrontation on the same afternoon that Nolan disappeared? Nolan's own mother said it plainly. Nolan was not someone who liked fights, physical fights. He really didn't even like arguments. That description doesn't match a teenager who voluntarily stays behind on a remote island after an argument erupts around him. Now let's talk about the pool party photo that broke the internet. A social media photo circulated online that allegedly shows Nolan a late night pool party on the evening of July 4th, when the narrative is that he was last seen around 3 p.m. Neither law enforcement nor the family has confirmed that the person in the image is Nolan. If that photo is real, it would mean Nolan made it off the island and back to the mainland. That would dismantle the entire drowning theory. But here's the important detail. Nolan's friend, Tracy Shepherd, told Rolling Stones that the picture isn't actually from July 5th. He says it's from a pool party on June 27th, a full week earlier. Shepherd says a friend posted the picture as part of the photo dump of recent events, but deleted it once social media rumours around Nolan's death began to spread. A social media timestamp does not reflect when a photo or video was taken. It shows when the consent was uploaded. And without access to the original file's metadata, there is no public evidence establishing exactly when the image was captured. So the pool party photo remains unconfirmed, but the fact that it has sparked that level of attention tells you something. People are watching this case with a magnifying glass because the official story has too many holes. Ocean Springs, where the Wells family lives, is nearly 79% white, according to the latest census. Most of the public's attention is on the fact that it looks like Nolan was the only black friend in the group of mostly white teenagers. Attorney Crump said it plainly. You had this 18-year-old kid who went out celebrating on July 4th with his friends on a boat, and tragically, they all came back but Nolan didn't, and Nolan was the only African American in the group. Reverend Al Sharpton addressed the racial element directly at the press conference, saying, "We're not bringing in race, but we're not discounting race either. This smacks off some of the worst fears we've had historically, not only in Mississippi, but in this country. Mississippi, a state with a history that bleeds through every generation, a state where the past isn't the past, and now an 18-year-old black athlete is dead after a holiday trip with white friends on a remote island, with no witnesses, no cameras, and no communication. You don't have to say the word, everyone is already thinking it. The Jackson County Sheriff's Office is investigating this as a death, not a homicide. Per a press release, there's been a lot of speculation and state officials haven't announced the cause of death. An autopsy was performed by the state medical examiner, but officials say it could take a couple of weeks to receive the results, which would include a toxicology report. So the family did what any family would do. When they don't trust the system, they brought in their own people. Nolan's family retained nationally renewed civil rights and personal injury attorney Ben Crump, calling for a thorough and transparent investigation. Attorney Crump and the legal team will conduct an independent review of the circumstances of Nolan's death and will press for the timely release of all records, witness accounts, and autopsy findings. A press release read, Crump said the family was seeking an independent autopsy and told media they would be flying Nolan's body to Washington, D.C. for that examination. Civil rights activist and former football player Colin Kaepernick helped fund the independent autopsy, while filmmaker Tyler Perry will be covering funeral expenses. Colin Kaepernick, Tyler Perry, Reverend Al Sharpton, Ben Crump, the biggest names in the civil rights and American culture, all standing behind this family. That doesn't happen when people believe a story. That happens when people sense something is very, very wrong. At a press conference in New York City, Nolan's parents remembered their son. "This is not how I wanted the world to meet my son." This is his mother, Christine Nolan, was in the kind of soul. He never met a stranger. He loved everybody. He just wanted everyone to be in peace with one another. A mother introducing her dead child to the world, not through his own touchdowns, not through his smile, but through a press conference, demanding answers about why he isn't alive. The family is calling for a thorough and transparent investigation. "We will not rest until every fact about what happened to Nolan on Horn Island is brought into the light, and we call on investigators to pursue this case with urgency and transparency this family deserves," Crump said. Crump didn't hold back. The history of Mississippi is something that they don't just read about in the books, but it's a lived experience for many Black Americans, that oftentimes when our children are killed in highly questionable situations, there is notion that, oh, it was nothing wrong, no foul play, let's just sweep it under the rug. Well, we refuse to sweep it under the rug. And here is where this story stands right now. An independent autopsy ordered by Crump has not yet been completed. 3 results are expected soon. State officials still haven't announced a cause of death, saying the medical examiner is still waiting on a toxicology report to finalise the autopsy. In Ocean Springs, community members have gathered at protests calling out one name, Nolan Wells. The Mississippi Coast Coliseum and Convention Center has been approved to hold a service for Nolan Wells. Reverend Al Sharpton will be officiating the funeral and says he sees the service as a way to seek justice and unity. So let me lay it out for you. Everything that doesn't add up. An 18-year-old goes to an island with his friends around 3 p.m. His friends say he decides to stay behind, but the girl he was with says he went back on the boat. His phone ends up in somebody else's possession. His Snapchat is wiped clean within hours. A video surfaces of a heated argument on the island the same afternoon. His friends don't call anyone until approximately 11 p.m. that night. A search lasting more than 40 hours finds nothing. And then on the morning of July 6, his body appears face down in the shallow water on the same end of the island where more than 200 people had been 2 days earlier. No official cause of death has been released. The state autopsy is still pending. The independent autopsy results haven't been announced, and the people closest to Nolan on that day are telling stories that contradict each other. This is not a closed case. This is a case that has barely been opened. His parents are pushing through their grief to figure out what happened. At the end of the day, I would hope any parent would fight for their kids to find out if anything happened, Christina Wansley said. She said it with the kind of clarity that only a broken heart can produce. "We just want to know what happened and why our baby didn't come home." Nolan Wells was 18 years old. He would have turned 19 next month. He was supposed to return to school to start training for the upcoming football season. He had 5 siblings who looked up to him, a mother who called him the best parts of herself. A father searched the water with a football coach at dawn, hoping to find his son alive. He didn't find him alive, and now he's fighting to find the truth. This case is far from over. The autopsy results are coming. The investigation is ongoing, and the entire nation is watching. We are going to stay on this story. Every development, every revelation, every answer that surfaces, you'll find it here. If this case has moved you, if you believe Nolan's family deserve the truth, then subscribe to Darkness of Beneath Crimes right now. Hit the like button, share this video, because stories like Nolan's don't get justice from silence. They get justice when people refuse to look away, and we're not looking away.